will say a few words as introduction as well, and perhaps also connect to the project in an indirect way. Can we have the PowerPoint? Really thanks again to our hosts for giving us this wonderful space and their willingness to help and partner with us. I would welcome and thank very much the Deputy Mayor of Athens, Mrs. Amalia Zepu, for being here with us. She's Deputy Mayor for Civil Society and Innovation, and she has been an initiator of a very important social initiative called Synathina, which perhaps she will talk to us about it. And of course, I would like to express my warmest thanks to the director of the gallery, Mr. Zacharopoulos, who embraced this initiative from the very beginning. In the summer, we started talking about this workshop. My very special thanks to all the speakers and all the producers of the video works that you will see shortly this morning, with whom we had the opportunity to talk quite a lot during the last months and develop together ideas about the project. I really want to extend my very special thanks to our keynote speakers. I'm truly honored to welcome Mr. Polychronis here today with us, who accepted our invitation, and he will talk to us in a very inspiring, in his very own personal way about the living systems and what we can learn from them. Mr. Polychronis is a renowned psychiatrist, systemic therapist, and head of the Athenian Institute of Anthropos. Of course, for the Hope School of Skaramangas refugee camp, represented today by Dia Orfali and by Loai Komambabeli, I only have words of admiration for the great work achieved in the hardest of times, but they did it with determination, hope, and genuine belief in the value of education for all. This is their motto. And we thank you very much for being here today. Very special thanks to the amazing and really great respect for the amazing work achieved so far, and already it's making a huge difference in the city by Melissa Network and the Community Center for Migrant Women, which we will have the chance to visit tomorrow morning. Melissa in Greek means beehive. And is really a beehive of life and hope for women in Athens. Today, Melissa is represented by Debbie Carlos Valencia, who is one of Melissa's co-founders, and together with Nadina Christopoulou, who would have been with us today. That was the plan, but she was called urgently to travel to Serbia a couple of days ago in order to offer her support to a young mother from Afghanistan who has been left disabled, bereaved, and stranded on the road to refuge. Fatima's tragic story, who stayed for some months in Athens and in Melissa Network during her stay in the city, illustrates the terrible risks African and Afghan refugees and many other refugees are taking in the face of rising European asylum rejections and deportations. Last but not least, sincere thanks to my dear colleagues in CAMOC, Joanna, I've seen, Gege, Nicole, Laila, and have many good friends, extended family in CAMOC. Catherine, who represents both CAM and CAMOC, and Irina for being partners in this project. And I'm very happy that Catherine also is responsible for organizing the second workshop of the project. It's going to be held in October in Mexico. So we're looking forward to that. So we are here in this very spot. We are here. This is the municipality of Athens, 7 different boroughs. And we have this project, which was organically born a couple of years ago. In late 2014, we were in Gothenburg when we discussed that the CAMOC decided that city museums and migration would be the theme, the main theme to reflect on throughout 2015. 2015 was a very important year for us because we celebrated 10 years of life. We were one of the youngest international committees of ICOM. And we did the choice, which was not a difficult one, of course, to choose migration, but rather it was a natural necessity, for we had realized through our conversations that as we continue, the continued influx of migrants brought new challenges to contemporary cities. Migrant and receiving populations have been constantly making new forms of urbanism. So the reality is definitely reaffirmed. This reality is definitely reaffirmed in this very district of Metaxourgio, which you'll have the chance to discover a little bit during the lunch break and walk around, and also in the other districts where we will be tomorrow morning in Victoria Square, where Melissa Network has its premises. So migrants often settle in existing contexts within the cities, and this can lead to polarization and exclusion, but also to enrichment and creation of new cultural resources. Migrants contribute to the vitality and diversity of today's global cities in many different ways. But there are questions, many questions, and we raise them through this project. How are cities and citizens adjusting to this increasing diversity? What cultural, political, and economic processes and transformations arise from these dynamics, and what is their impact on the identities of the different groups affected? To phrase the same questions in a very simple way and use the systemic approach, the systemic thinking, I would say how difference truly makes a difference in our society. By representing these processes and transformations through their activities and functions, museums are engaging with contemporary urban life, seeking direct contact with different communities in the city, looking for ways of adapting, transforming, and making cities work better and become more resilient. These urban dynamics require thoughtful engagement to allow museums to act as mediators of dialogues and places for the renewed kind of world citizenship. This is in brief the mindset we collectively share in CAMOC and of course CAM and ICR as professional communities of practice, co-created by individuals and by museums. So since 2015, these discussions became more focused, but also timelier in light of the massive migrant crisis, but also with the rise of xenophobia and far right in Europe, and now, of course, in the United States. So today, museums are called to make their position against racism, against all forms of discrimination. More and more colleagues from all over the world talk about museum resistance, museum activism, about the need for museums not to be neutral, not to stay neutral, otherwise they run the danger of being complicit in the production of discrimination and inequality. Museums must reinvent their social role as safe places and safe spaces within their urban fabric. In fact, following President Trump's executive order to ban refugees and people from 7 listed countries from entering the United States just last week, 3 days after this announcement, the University of Leicester issued an announcement to highlight 6 ways that museums can stay relevant and can stand up to discrimination politics. And these are the 5 rules museums should follow, according to Leicester University and the School of Museum Studies. Museums should be welcoming, show how museums are a space for all. Museums should represent everyone and celebrate diversity. Museums should record, document, collect, demonstrate the impact of cruel inhuman treatment. Be active, campaign for what is right, don't stay neutral, don't tolerate intolerance, and be a place where we can enjoy the best of humanity. This is really a very important role for museums, for any type of museums. For city museums even more, because we represent the city itself. So in Athens, where local and global can occasionally blend in very unpredicted ways, as you see here in this photograph, this building is not far from the municipal gallery, it's just around the corner, blending the Greek and the Chinese cultures in a very creative way. And where citizens are called to support with humanity, empathy, and solidarity thousands of refugees that left their countries because of war, because of poverty, because of violation of human rights. We gather today to reflect collectively on how museums can create a common platform to share relevant experiences, knowledge, and good practices. We will discuss which meaningful ways we have to engage with new urban dynamics in a post-migration movement era. That is an era whereby societies become more unified by abolishing divisionary ideologies and practices, not us versus others. We are all humans in the same web of life. We want to do this discussion by combining all our talents and creative minds. So for us, it's very important to have together museums, academic researchers, concerned citizens and organizations, NGOs, and immigrants and refugees. So the workshop today represents all these different parts of our society, this mixture. And it's represented both in the speakers in the program and in the audience in our assembly. Usually, it would be very good to have time to introduce each other and say who we are and where we come from, because it would be very difficult to do it in the General Assembly. We'll do it in the smaller groups later on during the workshop. I thought of collecting some information to give you an insight of who we are today in this very room. So just some statistics. We are around 60 people from 3 different continents: Europe, Asia, and Latin America, and North America. We are approximately representing 16 different countries, which is a good representation, I think. We have a varied knowledge of and experience in developing projects with migrants regarding empowerment and social integration. To say what we want to do and really what we are aiming to do today, I'll use the words of one of our colleagues who is here, Elizabeth Ioannidis from Contemporary Art Museum. We are here because we want to get a know-how on how we can. I like very much this phrase really it's a synthesis of all the things that we need to do. Of course, we can do all these things. This is a word cloud made by all your comments that you send as you register to come to Athens. It's a bit chaotic, but there is sense in this cloud. I will use some of the words also that you shared. Paola from Italy said that the current crisis acted upon her, upon us, as a special professional call, but also as a special human call. José said that museums must be homes to shelter, doors to open, windows to view, and mirrors to reflect our shared humanity within diverse realities. And Massoum from the United States rightly noted that museums are underutilized spaces in which to convene difficult city-wide dialogue about migration and immigration. And we need to reflect how we can elevate the role of museums. And indeed practice what Gerasimos from Action Aid Hellas proposed in 4 letters. He wrote the kind of motto: museums, moving societies, MS, museums, moving societies. So it is true that the message that comes through museums is more and more the message of connectivity, of creating human networks and relationships. Museums must create spaces for people to be and share the best of who they are. They must be spaces for compassion and humanity. And this is what we will try also to reflect through our project.